Hey everybody, it's Dan Mori with Staffing Monthly, the industry's only digital publication where we focus on bringing you actionable insights in the areas of recruiting, marketing, sales, and leadership. And the topic that I'm talking about today is right in line with the event that we celebrate this month, which is the Staffing Sales Summit. We're going to be talking about sales. And I've done a lot of content around targeted prospecting campaigns and the work that you need to do to fill your funnel and then move prospects through your funnel to ultimately get a meeting. Things like how to have an optimal cold call, or what are your best practices for emails that convert, and maybe A/B testing those things to make sure that you're always optimizing your email. And how do you integrate social selling into your prospecting campaigns? How do you manage referrals through this process as well? Walk-ins, direct mail. We've talked all about all of those touch points in order to get the meeting, right? And there's actually a part of the process that I've talked about quite a bit about managing the meeting. How do you go through the kind of the initial bonding phase, the pain discovery phase, the confirmation, and then the solution desired outcome phase, and then action items with sort of a call to action. We've talked a lot about that. And I've realized recently that there's actually a process that I do that I didn't really think much about, or didn't think it was that important, until I was recently talking to a lot of sales leaders and leaders of staffing agencies that realized that there's actually some critical steps that happen when you book the meeting, or should be happening when you're booked the meeting, that oftentimes are not. So I want to tell you a very quick system and really the steps that happen when you get a meeting that you should be doing if you want to be a successful salesperson, increase your chances of a better sales meeting, differentiating yourself, getting more proposals out to your prospects, and ultimately getting more clients that you can build relationships with. And so this little process that I'm going to work you through is literally a number of steps that surround the meeting. So imagine, if you will, you're a sales rep and you have done your targeted prospecting campaign and you get a meeting, right? You get it on the books, and let's just say you score this meeting for next Tuesday at 2:00, right? And you're going to be meeting with the VP of HR to talk about some open recs that they've had open for a little while that's creating some pain points in the organization that if they don't get them filled quickly, it could ruin their quarter and possibly their year, right? So once this happens, I want you to imagine a pipeline, and really the getting the meeting is sort of the center of this, because there's two process steps that need to be considered before the meeting, and then there's actually three process steps that need to be considered immediately following the meeting, okay? So the very first thing, once you book this meeting, you're obviously going to send a calendar invite to your prospect. You should have an agenda written out in the descriptions, the link if it's virtual, the location listed if it's in person. All of that should be set out, okay? At the same time that you're doing this, you also want to block out on your calendar your pre-meeting planning time, okay? Do not go into the meeting without a plan. Do not wing it. You will never rise to the occasion. You always fall to your highest level of preparation, and the pre-meeting planning is essential to this, okay? You should have a framework that you follow that will take you through an efficient way of planning for your meeting, figuring out what do you need to know about this prospect going in. What did you learn about them on your prospecting call where you booked the meeting? What can you find out about this company, about the decision maker, the person you're meeting with? What do you know about this industry and similar pain points that they might be experiencing? What examples can you pull from your existing clients where maybe you've helped similar companies solve similar challenges? So you want to be prepared for all of that. You want to build out the key questions that you need to ask and identify those answers. You want to know that stuff going in, so when you show up, you seem well prepared. This really is your first impression to demonstrate that you are an organized sales rep, but you also represent an organized, well-run agency, right? So I typically like to block out anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour for pre-meeting planning time, depending on the industry or the client, where they fall in my client market map, right? And then when I do this, I'm going to be doing this probably like 48 hours, maybe 72 hours prior to the meeting. Okay. I want enough time to be able to gather information, but I also want the information to still be fresh when I get to the meeting. Okay. So 48, 72 hours prior to the meeting, I block this on my calendar. I protect this time. I'm going to explain why at the very end of this video. The next thing that I make sure happens, and you can do this two ways, but I do the meeting confirmation. A lot of people do this. Some people, they overthink this, or maybe they don't realize the importance of it. It's a great step. If you actually book this meeting, I recommend having a template that you use that you can tweak or customize for each prospect situation that you can just schedule to go out 24 hours prior to the meeting, right? Something as simple as, hey, Mr. Prospect, I'm really looking forward to meeting you tomorrow, talking about, 1, 2, 3 points that you might have covered on the call to get the meeting. I'd like to share with you some things that we've done in the past to help solve this problem if applicable. If for any reason you need to cancel or reschedule, please let me know, right? It's just a common courtesy that you should be doing. And you can just create this template in your Gmail or Outlook to be able to send it out super quick, and you can schedule it in advance. Again, 24 hours in before your meeting, or you can just put a time block. If you want to send these things manually, or maybe you don't have the capabilities to schedule emails at this point, you can just put the time block on your calendar to make sure that you're sending out that manual meeting reminder. It's a great way to reinforce the agenda of the meeting. You're going to see this as a common theme. Your framework for pre-meeting planning should be really around how you're going to go through the meeting and the agenda. Your meeting confirmation is going to re-hit the high overview of the agenda. Then you do this confirmation, and let's say they book, they say, yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting you Tuesday at 2. Great. Then you have your meeting. Okay, you're going to take them through a framework. You should have a custom framework for how you manage your meetings. My personal favorite that I use, I just go through the initial, greeting bonding period that we all go through, the niceties, and then you get into the pain discovery phase. This is where you ask a lot of those questions. You ask discovery, and then you make sure that you confirm what you heard, that you understand it, you get the that's right moment. Then you move into kind of solution presenting, where you talk about, you want to identify their desired state. And then you close with some call to actions about next steps, right? However, once you go back in time with me for a second. Once you put this meeting on the calendar, there's 3 other things that I want you to block out on the calendar. Immediately following the sales meeting, I want you to block out 1 hour immediately following this. Even if it's the end of the day, I want you to still block this out. And this 1 hour block is going to be split into 2 parts. 15 minutes is going to be what I call the quick follow-up. This should also be a template, something that you can just tee up really quickly, customize to your prospect's name, customize some bullet points about the construct of the meeting. And again, this is going to follow the similar agenda format that you use in your pre-meeting planning and your meeting confirmation and your meeting structure. You're going to have this in there. It's just a quick follow-up. It reminds them what you talked about and what the next steps are. But it also shows that you are attentive and responsive, that within 15 minutes of the meeting, they're getting a follow-up email that just says, yes, I heard what you heard and I'm getting to work for you, right? Then that block, immediately following that block, scheduled at the time of the meeting, is going to be your team debrief meeting, right? This is a 30-minute to 1 hour block. There should be, again, a framework within your agency for how you bring in the necessary stakeholders to talk about bringing this client on. Now, if this is a smaller client or a C-tier client on your market map, maybe this is not necessary. But if it's a B tier or A tier, or you really want to get recruiting input as part of a collaborative effort, or maybe your back office payroll people's input for the collaborative effort to see what's the solution that you need to provide to the client, this is the time to do that, right? So also scheduled at the time of the meeting is going to be the third piece post-meeting. It's the follow-up summary. This is where you take all of the notes out of that team debrief meeting, and then you put it into, again, a templated format that's going to be very consistent, so you're conveying your message to the prospect very similar throughout the entire process, but you're going to put it into a detailed summary, and you're going to restate the pain points, the negative business impact that they're facing. You're going to talk about the solution that you and your team think is the best solution, and then you're going to restate the intended outcome. And ideally, you'll be able to put in there a brief testimonial or a case study of how you've done this for somebody else that's in a similar situation, right? Really, really important to do that. And that has to happen within 4 hours of the meeting. You have to be able to get this out. Now, I understand that not all calls, not all sales meetings are a one call close, so to speak, that you're going to have to maybe have a follow-on meeting. You would just repeat this process. If the call to action after the first meeting is not to submit a proposal, then you would just repeat this. You would just say, okay, when are we booking the next meeting? Then you'd put the pre-meeting planning session on, you'd do the meeting confirmation, you would do the follow-up quick, you would do the team debrief time block on your calendar, you do the follow-up summary, the detailed one on your calendar, and you just follow this process until you get a signed contract or until you determine that it's not a fit and you both part ways, right? Until it's not there. Now, there is one last step in this funnel, this BD process, and it really is just the follow-up phase, right? This is where you submit your summary email that has all the details and it has the proposal, or maybe you're asking them for their MSA, or you're asking them to get set up on their MSP program, whatever it might be, whatever the next step is, you've done that part. And then now you move them into the follow-up next steps category. This is where they're going to live for no more than 30 days. Again, this is optimal. Every sales cycle is a little bit different. Adjust this accordingly for your specific industry. But about 30 days, and you should take them through, an assertive but not annoying follow-up cadence, just a mix of emails and phone calls, right? Just to make sure that you're focusing on getting the agreement signed and getting that contract across the finish line so you can bring it into your fulfillment team or your recruiting team to start working on those orders and servicing the client, right? So just a super quick recap that's so important in this process. Once you book the meeting, there are actually 5 other steps that you need to plan for. 1, pre-meeting planning, 30, 45, 60-minute block on your calendar, 48 to 72 hours prior to the meeting, right? Meeting confirmation email, simple template, goes out 24 hours prior to the meeting. You can do it manually or schedule it like I like to do. You're also putting on your follow-up quick time block immediately following the sales meeting. And immediately following that, you're going to be blocking out the team debrief and inviting your team members so they're aware that there's a sales meeting, that they need to show up and do this debrief and get all the information nailed down. And then immediately following the team debrief, it's a 1-hour time block for doing your follow-up summary that you're going to send back to the client within 4 hours of the meeting that outlines your solution that you're proposing with your pricing structure. Or you're requesting the next meeting and you're just going to repeat this process until you get the client. So that is a really important micro process step in between your targeted prospecting campaign and when you book the meeting. And there's those key steps that if you're not doing it and you're not blocking out that time, you might get busy and you might have to show up to a meeting not properly prepared. You might have to wing it, or maybe you don't plan ahead for your team debrief and it takes a little bit of time to get your team organized around to come up with a solution. And now you've waited a day or 2 days or God forbid a week to get back to the client with your solution on what the proposal is, right? And what this process does, not only will it keep you and your sales reps organized, it actually demonstrates to the prospect that you have a system, that you're a well-oiled machine, that you're organized, that you're expedient, that you move through the process rather quickly. So it's telling them this is an agency that is buttoned up and moves quick. They're our good partner to work with on filling my needs. And as long as you can actually communicate your unique value proposition effectively during this process, you're going to be way ahead of most of your competitors out there in the marketplace, right? The last thing that this actually will really do for you is it protects the time necessary for you to do the necessary work to acquire the client. And why this is so important is sales is hard. We know this. If you're in sales, God, you know it's hard. It's really hard. And it's been hard this year. It was hard last year. This is not an easy thing to do, to go get a new client, right? And when you do get one, you want to increase your chances of acquiring a new customer. But most importantly, in my experience, You don't just get a customer for one project. If you do a good job, they keep working with you and you will retain them for years and years and years. And in this industry, that's millions and millions and millions of dollars of revenue. So every sales meeting you have with a potential client represents millions of dollars of value for your agency. You should be treating each opportunity with that value standard in mind. Think about how much effort you would put towards something if you knew that it was worth millions of dollars. You might think about it a little bit differently. This process exemplifies that, and it creates consistency and expediency that can be repeatable across your team and create scale. Hopefully this was helpful for you. I've gotten a lot of questions about it lately, so I wanted to share it with you. If you got additional questions or you want to see it visually, just drop a comment, send me an email, hit me up on LinkedIn, whatever you got to do. I'm happy to share more about this. And thank you for tuning in, and stay tuned for next month's Staffing Monthly.